Welcome to Mojo Talks. I'm Eric, and today we're talking about The Walking Dead and how it seems to be going over a cliff, and nobody's really very enamored with it anymore. So we've convened a panel. We've got Andrew and Manny, who are both experts in The Walking Dead. How you guys doing?
Experts?
We're knowledgeable.
Well, knowledgeable. And Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, you still watch it. You've kind of
absolutely
grown a bit less attached to it. Manny, you used to like it, and you don't even watch it.
I checked out after the mid-season finale of season 8. I was like, I'm done here. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, so what's going on? What are they doing wrong? Why is it failing?
They've been doing things wrong for a really long time, and they haven't seemed to find their feet and been able to improve on it, or to fix the things that are wrong.
So what are the things that are wrong?
Well, I want to start off with Rick being like the worst leader and person ever. I'm like completely, at the beginning I was all like, I'm all about Rick, and you know, he's all like, Coral, and all that. It's just now it's got to the point like, you're a terrible leader. It's like, he's like, okay guys, you know what, we're going to be the better person, we're going to do everything the right way, and then that obviously doesn't work, because it's the frickin' zombie apocalypse, and there's no rules. And then he's like, well, you know what, now we got to fight, and it's been that cycle over and over and over, and it's just like, it's draining me. I get it.
You're tired.
I'm just like, I get it, Rick. You want to do the right thing. The right thing doesn't work. But now you want to be in charge of everything. So, hey, let's destroy the governor. Let's destroy let's get rid of the prison. And then like, oh no, now there's Negan. And oh no, Negan's no good. And then like, let's get over it, man.
Here's the thing. I totally understand where you're coming from. The way I personally got over that was I now see the show as it's not following a group of survivors in the zombie apocalypse. It's following the dumbest survivors of the zombie apocalypse.
It's like turn into a comedy.
And if you see the show from that angle, if you're like, oh, it's following the dumb people and not the smart, intelligent people who are like somewhere else in the world, the show sort of starts to make sense.
So if they were to speed it up and add the Benny Hill music, then everything would be right.
Oh, that show would be so good with that. Yeah, it would be fantastic.
But so, I mean, what do you make of the fact also that there's a lot of standalone episodes? You know, I get the feeling that before it was more, you know, you would be able to follow everyone, but as the cast grew, you know, that you would have these standalone episodes, and it kind of takes away from the feeling that you can keep up with what's going on a regular basis.
That's something that bothers me a lot.
I think it's the biggest problem with the show.
Yeah, it takes me out of it. It's like you kind of want to see where the story's going to advance. Mm-hmm. You kind of want to see what's going to happen to these characters. You're starting to care about the characters, but then it's like they put emphasis on these sideline stories that go nowhere. They get wrapped up in an episode, so it becomes back to that old 80s and 90s type of Freak of the Week episode. Like, hey, we're doing this episode this week. Isn't that fun? No, there was a problem, but
the musical episode, or the Christmas episode,
yeah,
right?
That's what it feels like.
I don't think it's more like a X-Files Freak of the Week thing. I think it's sort of a holdover from Lost, where their cast has grown so much that they think that the best way to pace the show is to spread everything out. So you've got like Negan in one episode, and then we don't see him again for 2 weeks. We've got, you know, Rick or whatever in one episode. But fans have like, we've outgrown that. The audience has outgrown that, and shows like Game of Thrones have stopped doing that because they realize people hate it. And Walking Dead hasn't figured that out yet.
So are you thinking that Walking Dead and the showrunners and the network, you know, they keep jerking people around. People are getting tired of it. You would think that at some point they would learn, but how many seasons in and they still haven't figured it out?
Another thing is that they're seeing it in their numbers, right? The ratings are dropping for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not raising any flags on their end. I feel like they've gotten so much sponsorship at this point for the show, and they've already kind of made enough money to where we might end up with a Dexter, you know, where the last 2 seasons are just like, hey, remember how it started really amazing, and then we got a great character-driven second season, and then like the 3rd season was like, hey, isn't this cool? And like, look how the characters are growing. And then it's like, we're gonna do something ridiculous, and then just, you know, just forget it. We're just gonna go with whatever we feel like doing because you guys keep tuning in week after week.
So would you say they jumped the shark? Like at any point in the whole trajectory, was there a shark jumping moment?
I wouldn't say it happened in a moment. I would just say it's been
It's just been a long, slow motion
just a
shark
progression.
jump.
It's been like, I get what they're doing,
Yeah.
but I don't anymore, and I'm checked out. Like, I know, like, when Andrew told me he still watches it, I was like, wow, for real? Then why are we doing this panel? But, you know, I mean, like, for me, I checked out mid-season 8. I got annoyed with the whole, like, season 7 of Negan this, Negan that, and Negan. And then we see him right at the end of the episode. And then they start off with, like, this, like, a completely stretched out last 15 minutes of the previous season. They just stretched it out to an entire episode. And I was kind of like, is this what I'm waiting for? And that's what I got. I got a season of thin plot lines, stretched out, full of useless side characters that lead nowhere, small adventures that go nowhere, and they all just come back to this overarching type of like problem that's not being solved, and it's just being dragged out season to season. Impossible headshots. I'm just checked out. Like, everybody's an expert marksman without practicing, which bothers me. It's like, you can't get that many headshots, especially Rick. He's using a 44.
I think you're okay, at this point, I think you're nitpicking. I think you're nitpicking.
I'm sorry.
Like, if the show was properly paced, then those things would be okay, but the show isn't properly paced at all.
So let's say AMC calls you and they're like, we're getting rid of the showrunners, you guys are running the show. What would you do to change it? How would you fix what's gone wrong?
I'd get rid of a lot of the cast members, which is with a lot of the characters, which is a shame because I think the cast is working really, really hard. Yeah. I don't necessarily like the characters they're playing, but they're putting the work in to try to make the show the best show that they can make it.
They're doing the best with what they have. I respect all the characters in that show, especially if they're dealing with a lot of the prosthetic makeups, a lot of dirt, a lot of like, they have to always kind of have like this sense of dread, and the characters are kind of portraying that. It's just at this point you're like, I get it. You feel bad, but like, can we move on from this? Can you like?
And half of them have to go. Like you have too many characters now.
Do you think it's also a matter of viewing habits? Like, you know, when you can binge something on Netflix and it comes out right away, you know, is it that the context of how we consume shows has changed and they need to catch up?
I think that can affect a little bit. Like, there's no way I could wait 13 weeks to watch The Punisher. Right? Or I think I'm really growing accustomed to having everything on demand. I like that. And waiting a week per show, like, I'm a big fan of Ash versus the Evil Dead. And waiting every week for that show, it just drives me nuts when we get a mediocre episode and I just feel like, now I gotta wait even longer. It bothers me. That's
a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that, how like, because they're still using, like I said, the old habits from Lost where they make you wait. They'll have like a cliffhanger or something cool, and then they make you wait 2-3 episodes for it to become something. That combined with the audience just, we're used to, you know, Netflix now. That's a really interesting point. Maybe that's just compounding, or that's bringing its problem more into the light.
So if they were able to adapt and maybe figure out how to turn that problem into an advantage, then they would be successful.
And also these mid-season breaks.
Yeah, but I mean,
that kind of like is getting to me. I'm really not a big fan of that. It's a new thing in TV that we see, these odd episode counts. Like, usually there's like the standard half season, which is 13 episodes, and it's like people roll with that, 13 weeks, great. That's usually how they pilot test seasons now. Yeah. But the AMC has always had like a weird episode structure. We kind of saw that at the beginning with Mad Men, like the seasons are not the same amount of numbers, and like The Walking Dead started with a 6-part miniseries. And then season 2 was, I think, only 8 episodes. And then they finally got into like season 3, which was the first time they did 6 and then like 4 or 5 to wrap up. I could be getting my numbers wrong, but it was like a weird structure for this show. Also, the cost of the show is like a big factor in why they do these mid-season breaks.
Right.
But for me, it's like having 2 giant, quote-unquote, story-changing points. It's like you're kind of just, you're dragging a story that can be wrapped up. You're just dragging it on even more. And especially that we have to wait so long in between, like, it just kind of gets to me.
Well, I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. Are you still big fans of Walking Dead? Do you think there's anything they can do to fix it? And I guess you're not going to keep watching, Manny, but you're still on board.
Reluctantly, I'm trying. I keep hoping they'll bring it around. I'm still on board.
If they bring it around, let me know. Maybe I'll binge and I'll come back.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next time.